Klimt and His Cat, written by Bernice Capati, illustrated by Octavia Monaco. Follow me into Gustav's studio. It is alive with color. Look at the paintbrushes he keeps in a vase, and the reds and blues and colorful hues that spill onto the table. Smell the scent of paint, of oil, of canvas. You can watch Gustav paint, but he won't know you're there. I often watch him for hours. I mew loudly, I rub against his leg, and I scratch at the chairs, but he doesn't see me. He doesn't even hear me. He is absorbed in a world of color and canvas. Today, Gustav is painting a couple in love. Over the figures, he brushes in flowers of gold, the richest of colors. Roses and flowers of all kinds are painted into his pictures. Gustav is inspired by the garden that blooms outside his window. Early each morning, he takes me outside, and together we watch the buds open. Gustav loves to paint people, so he invites models to his studio to pose for him. I snuggle up against their legs and vie for attention, but Gustav has instructed the models to stay very still while he paints them. As you can see, when models come, Gustav is messy. Look at all the sketches he throws about the room. Katze, he says, catching me staring at the clutter, painting people requires a great deal of practice. Seems to me that it also requires a lot of paper. I often follow along at the museum while Gustav studies the ancient art from Syria, Greece, Egypt, even China. Gustav says that looking at the paintings and sculptures of other artists helps him as an artist. To learn to do better, I must see everything, he exclaims, even works of art that aren't so beautiful. Walking around the museum with a small red sketchbook, he pencils in notes and makes small drawings of the things he likes. The smile of a beautiful woman, the gentle arch of a doorway. Back at the studio, he will use these sketches to decorate the edges of his paintings and make them special. With splotches of swirls and shapes and gold and silver paint, Gustav creates a new style of art, different from the traditional paintings of the past. Other artists, friends of Gustav's, painters, architects, and sculptors, have helped him construct a building where his art and other new styles of art can be displayed. These artists have called themselves secessionists because they do not want to make traditional art. They do not like to see the same thing over and over again. Not everyone appreciates the new style of Gustav and his friends, however. While I am admiring Gustav's new building, a man next to me points at the roof and grumbles, "Katze, what kind of roof is that? A golden cauliflower?" I don't reply. I'm pretending that the golden cauliflower is on his head. Gustav has taught me that it takes courage to try something new. When he was asked to paint 3 large works for the University of Vienna, he painted what he felt. Using vibrant color and shapes of all sizes, he portrayed love and life and sadness too. The university professors, expecting traditional art, are angered at Gustav's work. Their criticism is so harsh that Gustav buys his paintings back from them. "Katze, what's important to me is not how many people like my art, but who appreciates it," he says to me, winking. Perhaps he's asking if I like it. Today, we are off to Italy, where we will discover new artists and see wonderful sights. I wander the streets of Venice to look for other cats, but Gustav is interested only in art. He keeps me in his sight as we enter an ancient church. There before us, a magnificent mosaic made up of thousands of glimmering colored glass fragments shines. Even I stop to admire it, totally enchanted, though I understand next to nothing about art. Gustav contemplates it for hours, dreaming of how to use the design in masterpieces. Though he enjoys short trips to sightsee, Gustav's real travels take place inside his studio. He is transported to distant lands as he sweeps paint onto paper and details intricate patterns of circles and squares. Today, he paints Emily, his closest friend. I don't mind that they sometimes walk out into the garden alone, because now there are 7 more cats in the house. Plenty of friends for me. Emily and her sisters, who own the most famous dressmaker's boutique in Vienna, often model for Gustav. They wear elaborate, fashionable dresses from London, and they are always changing their clothes. Gustav meticulously paints every detail of their dresses, but he doesn't pay much attention to his own attire. Every day he wears the same worn-out smock. Today, we are going on vacation. Together with Emily and her family, we head for the shores of Lake Attersee. Though we are supposed to be taking a break from our normal routine, Gustav cannot stop being an artist. Even here he works. His routine, his favorite spot, is to paint in the middle of the lake, where he is fascinated by the reflections. He sees curves of beautiful women swimming in the waves, but all I can see is bright blue water. Back home, Gustav paints people and patterns, but on holiday, he paints nothing but landscapes. Maybe he's taking a vacation after all. When we return to Vienna, Gustav hurries back to the studio, ready to create new compositions. He has much energy to paint these days. He says he feels called to battle the sickness, greed, and unhappiness in the world through his paintings. Gustav knows that art, poetry, and music have the power to make people happy. I imagine him as an armed soldier fighting for happiness, leading an army of Viennese citizens right into one of his vibrant paintings, perhaps into the mural he painted in honor of the great musician Beethoven. Gustav soon returns to painting figures. I try to play with the fancy rich women who are modeling in extravagant clothes, but Gustav reminds me they must keep still. Living with a great artist is not always easy. One afternoon, I peek over Gustav's shoulder as he sketches. I watch the forms of a man and a woman emerge, clutched in an embrace. I already know this is going to be a masterpiece. Gustav creates the most elaborate and delicate garments in this painting and layers on many ounces of gold, as if to say, love is all the wealth you need. As I look more closely at the finished work, I realize that Gustav was inspired by the design of shiny glass, shapes of the mural we saw in Italy. Gustav is loyal and generous. Last year, he learned that a local shop was going bankrupt, so he decided to help the owner by purchasing all of his art supplies there. This afternoon, he's lost in thought and does not hear the voice of the beggar in the street. I nudge him gently, and he rushes outside to give the poor man a coin. He always gives money to the needy, even when he does not want to be disturbed. He leaves a bowl of coins outside his door for them. I think it's a bit strange. The more gold Gustav puts in his paintings, the less he keeps for himself. Mostly, Gustav is full of life. I often hear him laugh. I love to watch the vigor of his hands, swirling colors together, but he's quiet at the moment. Katzi, he says while scratching my neck. I am afraid that young students no longer like my style of art. He looks off into the distance. I don't even know if they remember me. Under his gentle touch, I purr loudly, reminding him that he will not be forgotten. When I look up at the easel after my nap, I am surprised to see that Gustav has created a painting in a completely different style. Soft lines and gentle colors have replaced the decorative circles and squares in the gold paint. I don't have the gift of the spoken or the written word, Katzi, Gustav says to me later that day, especially if I have to say something about myself or my work. But whoever wants to know something about me as an artist, he continues, gesturing to his paintings that lie scattered about the studio, ought to look carefully at my pictures and try to see in them what I am and what I want to do. As usual, I don't reply. I simply breathe in deeply and inhale the scents of oil, paint, and canvas. All right, so the artist for Art2Go for February is Gustav Klimt, and we just listened to this book, Klimt and His Cat. This is a fun little story told through the point of view of the cat. The cat's the narrator. And here's, we're going to look at a few images. This is what Gustav Klimt looked like. He lived from 1862 to 1918. And he was known primarily for his portraits. And I know everyone remembers what a portrait is. Portrait is of a person. This one is called Adele Bloch-Blauer. And if you look very closely, there were a couple things about Klimt that set him apart. He loved to use gold. He loved to use the color gold. He even sometimes used gold leaf, real gold. And gold leaf is gold that has been pounded very, very thin, and then when it's placed onto something like a painting or even wood or other objects, it sticks to it. It's so thin, it sticks to it, and then you kind of burnish it to get it to stay on. He also liked a lot of, as I mentioned, he liked pattern, but a lot of the imagery we see almost looks Egyptian. So we see like the eye is a kind of a repeating pattern that we'll see a lot. And we see a lot of these like geometric shapes, and he liked that swirl. And we're gonna have fun with that in a second. Here's another portrait he did. This one is called Joanna Stout. And the last one we're going to look at is called Tree of Life. This is actually part of a triptych, which means 3 big pieces. And again, look at those fun swirls. We're going to have fun doing that. And the materials we're going to use today are metallic markers or metallic pencils and just black construction paper. All right, so I'm going to show you. I'm going to use the markers because I think they show up a little better. But when you get your free kit, if you come by to get a kit at the front desk here at the Ellen Noel Art Museum, your kit is probably going to have colored pencils in it because the colored pencils last longer. All right, so the Tree of Life. We're looking at this, and we're looking at these swirls, and we never ever are trying to copy in Art2Go. We're trying to be influenced by it or do things that look like the style of. So we're going to make our own metallic tree using metallic markers on the black paper. And this is what's really fun about this. These metallic colors, so if you look at the outside, it kind of looks like they're black or green or purple, but all of them look metallic. Even the metallic black shows up on black. These are so fun to work with. Same thing if you have the metallic colored pencils, it almost looks like it's illuminated. It's got kind of that fun shine to it. And you know what I'll do actually, guys, is I'll use the markers so they show up, and I'll try some of the pencils on here too so you can see what that looks like. These are so fun on this black paper. All right, let me show you how you're going to get started. So I'm going to take this purple color. So we're going to try to make our version of a Tree of Life with those swirls. And they're actually, the actual word for that is a spiral. The way you can remember that is think about when you throw a football and it makes this kind of a shape. That's called throwing a spiral. Same thing if you take your finger, and let's just practice before we draw. If you start in the middle and you just kind of go around and around and around, that's a spiral. You can even do that in the air. Or you can start from the outside and come in. Get smaller and smaller. The lines don't touch. That's one thing you want to remember. So I'm going to start with the side of my tree. Make a big spiral there. Then I'm going to start down here with the other side of my tree. Make another spiral. These are my branches. Get a different color. And now I'm going to do my branches. And I always tell everybody when we do these trees in classrooms, I think that I like to think of nature as being kind of irregular. It's not going to be completely symmetrical. You usually are not going to see a tree that has 3 little branches on this side and 3 matching branches on that side. That's not how things grow in nature. So I want to have, in my tree, I want to have an odd number of branches. I already have 2, and so it's fun to play a little game to say, what plus 2 can I add to this to end up with an odd number? And I don't want to draw, 13 branches. So let's just say, how about 5? If I add 5 branches, I'm going to end up with 5 plus 2, I'm going to end up with 7. I think that might look nice. So, and I'm going to try to make my spirals go in different directions. I'm going to make my branches come out at the top of the tree. See how pretty that blue is? Isn't that cool? Let's do another one over here. Let me try a different color. Let's try the gold one. Let's see what this looks like. I have 4. If I'm trying to get to 7, how many more do I need? Oh, that looks pretty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Click on this one over here. Okay, let's count. I was going to add 5 to my 2 to get 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I need 1 more. like how that looks. So that's what I've done to get my branches. And now I want to do some of that repeating pattern. And I like how he uses these things that look kind of Egyptian. So let me try this with my colored pencils, my metallic pencils. Let's see if these show up. So a pattern could be, I could do all of one thing here, and then the next row, I'm going to add some patterns onto my trunk of my tree. Or I could do like every other one. So let's see, one thing that I already mentioned, I like those eyes. So I'm going to do like an Egyptian eye. I hope this is showing up. This looks cool up close. And I could do a whole row of eyes, or I could do an eye, something else, an eye, something else. I think I'm going to do a whole row of eyes because I think those look neat. Right, another thing we see that looks Egyptian to me that would be a fun pattern, sometimes you'll see something that looks kind of like a little vase or a pot. So I'm going to do a row of those. And I'm going to come back and color those in. This stuff looks so cool on black. I hope you can see this. If not, when you do this at home or do this at school, you're going to be able to see. So if you are a second grade ECISD teacher and you would like supplies for your classroom, give me a call or shoot me an email here at the museum and we'll get those to you. And if you are just wanting to do this and you're a kid, you get your parents to bring you by and ask at the front desk and say, I would like the free goodie bag for February. The artist is Klimt, and they will give you a free goodie bag, and it will have a piece of black construction paper and a packet of these pencils in there. All right, so we've got eyes, we've got pots. Another thing we see sometimes in hieroglyphics, it almost looks like a little bird. So it's kind of like the body of a bird, and then it has that beak sticking out. All right, let me see, what else would be fun? I think maybe now I'm gonna do my repeating pattern. So maybe I'll do a little vase and an eye, and then a little vase and an eye. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm sure yours are going to look really cool. And you don't have to use Egyptian if you don't want to. I just think that's fun because Klimt did that a lot. So again, when you're doing your own art, if you're looking at this, if I were going to finish this, I probably would keep doing patterns all the way up to where the trees, where the branches are at the top of the tree. Another thing that's really fun that we like to do in class, and this is kind of is time consuming, so I'm just going to do a couple to show you, but it looks really pretty to come back and kind of make some little dots. And if you are using markers, you don't have to push very hard, just very, very lightly. Some of you might have these in the classroom, but look at that. I'm just making a repeated little dot pattern. Just tracing, I'm not touching the line of my branch, I'm just really close to it, just kind of following that. Okay, and I'm going to stop where the branch reaches the tree. Let me try one more. I think that looks so pretty. Okay, I'm going to show you, just because no one ever believes me, the black actually does not look black, because you would think if this was black, it's not going to show up on black, but it's going to show up. It's going to be really cool. Okay, let's see, how about this one? You know, and actually now that I'm saying that, on camera maybe it isn't showing up, but in person it looks really pretty. It's this very shiny metallic little dot. And I'm gonna stop right when that gets to the thing. I could keep going, this is really fun. It's fun making dots. I'm gonna stop so that you have time to do yours. Don't forget, the last thing an artist always does is sign their name on the bottom, so you can put your name down on the bottom right hand side. and you could just keep going. I could make this so intricate and have dots all over. I could make dots going down the side. I could put dots in between my hieroglyphics. I think this is a really fun art project, and I hope you enjoy it.